What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to TTP Sports. We're going to be going over what the Flyers did today in the NHL draft. It's still going on right now, but what I'm looking at, like through Twitter and everything right now, it doesn't look like anything is going to be happening any further with the Flyers in regards to, making another, trade, or they trade back into the first round or something like that. That's probably stuff that's not going to happen for a little bit, further down the road. So basically, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens there for that point. So the Flyers, they selected 5th overall in this draft. They select Cutter Gauthier, 5th overall from the United States Development League. And overall, from the first instance, I like the pick. I like the pick overall, just to get the first opinion reaction to it. I think it's a good pick. I think it is a really good pick for the Flyers. There were a lot of crazy stuff going in this first, few picks in this NHL draft. Shane Wright was the potential first overall pick in this draft and probably should have went first overall, according to all the projections and stuff. But he falls down to pick number 4. 3 guys go above him, and you're just thinking to yourself, oh, is Shane Wright going to fall to 5? Is he going to fall to where the Flyers are? No, he goes to 4th overall to the Seattle Kraken, and the Flyers pick Cutter Gauthier. So I was basically fine either way. There were a lot of rumors and reports that, the Flyers were very in on Gauthier. Basically, they were scouting him a lot, and they really liked the pick at 5. So basically, if you're looking from that instance, the Flyers were going to be either in the choice of Shane Wright, I think Jiricek, or Gauthier. And I would have been fine with either 3 of those. You saw Shane Wright go into Seattle. Flyers opted to go with Gauthier. So I'm very fine with the pick overall in that instance. And there's a lot of other things that went down today as well. That, the Alex DeBrincat trade to the Ottawa Senators, that was a huge one. And there were a lot of rumors tied to the Flyers that they were one of the teams heavily involved in trying to get Alex DeBrincat from the Chicago Blackhawks over. So there are things to talk about that. And there's been rumors going around, but this is also one of the things that's probably one of the worst kept secrets in the world, that are the Flyers trying to go really hard to trade for, well, either sign Johnny Gaudreau in free agency or possibly trade for his rights. Those are rumors that I've been seeing basically throughout the past couple of days here. So there are things that, we basically just got to, look at from face value, and right now take it with a grain of salt, because it's a long process over the next couple of days, because NHL free agency, it's not that long away, I believe. Honestly, I don't know the exact date for NHL free agency. I probably should have looked that up. So there's something right there. So there's a lot of things to talk about. So basically, just getting into this first overall pick for the Flyers, talking about Cutter Gauthier. So 18 years old. He's a left wing and a center. He just started playing center this year, and he is committed to Boston College, to where he could possibly develop further the center position. He's also a guy, he's basically, he's 6'2", 189 pounds. He is what they describe a power forward type player who could put the puck in the back of the net. So this year for the United States National Development Program, he scored 65 points. 34 goals, 31 assists in 54 games with the team. He ranks 2nd on the team with goals. He also played with Logan Cooley, who got drafted by the Arizona Coyotes, so they're familiar with each other. He helped Team USA to a silver medal in the IIHF Under-18 World Championships, getting 9 points in 6 games. He's committed to playing Boston College for next season, and I remember seeing in his interview that he's planning on playing college for 1 year, then possibly going pro. So maybe he only plays in Boston College for 1 year, then he signs his entry level with the Flyers. So basically, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Probably like another Joel Farabee situation. He played at Boston University for 1 year. He was committed to college. He played there 1 year, signed his ELC after that. So basically, we're just going to have to wait and see from that standpoint. So if we're looking at some, scouting reports on Gauthier, this is from The Athletic of Corey Pronman. Gauthier has the tools that can make you easily envision him in the NHL. He has a thick 6'2" frame and can skate like an NHL player. So he has good skating abilities, which is really good. With his size and speed, he can overpower opponents to force turnovers or in how he attacks the net. Gauthier can create with his skating and skill, but his main offensive weapon is his shot. He can pick corners from a distance with a powerful wrist shot. So he is a guy that, has the ability to play like a power forward, but can also score goals. He can use his body. He can use his frame. He can use his speed. He has good skating ability, which is really good. The Flyers, haven't been known for drafting guys that have good skating ability, so that's very nice to see here. And he can also put the puck in the back of the net. That's been one of the Flyers' things in the past couple of drafts. They did draft Tyson Forrester a couple of years ago, who's more of a goal scorer than not. So maybe they're focusing on more goal scorers now, which is a nice thing to see. But right now, you still got to wait. It's another a year or something away from Gauthier even playing in the NHL. So there's still a waiting process with that. He's not going to be contributing to the team at all this year. Then you get from Bill Meltzer, the Flyers' main contributor. He says Gauthier was a second-half riser in many of the draft rankings and wound up 5th in McKenzie's list and 7th on Button's list. He has a nose for the net and a combination of good size, 6'2", and good skating ability. Gauthier is expected to play some center at Boston College, but it remains to be seen whether he'll be a long-term winger or a center or a swingman, depending on his line mates. He is a plus shooter and an above-average skater for a player of his size. He won't dazzle with fancy plays, but he wins puck battles and recognizes the offensive opportunities. So there you go. That's basically the stat line on Gauthier, and overall, I like the pick. It's a very solid pick for where you were at in this point in the draft. You were kind of when you were seeing all these reports that basically saying or not reports actually, you were seeing basically through the draft going on here, because if you go through this draft, basically Montreal gets the first overall pick, and you're thinking basically overall with basic mock drafts and all this stuff, you see most likely you're expecting Shane Wright to go first overall because he's been the projected first overall pick for a very, 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 very long time. But he didn't go first overall, actually. Montreal opted to go in a different direction. They draft Slafkovsky from Liga, and he's a big guy. He showcased a lot of stuff in the Olympics this year, a lot of, really good things. So Montreal opted to go that way, and it was kind of surprising that they didn't select Shane Wright. And then you go with the second overall pick, Simon Nemec. The Devils selected him, a defenseman from Slovakia. So 2 Slovakians go first and second overall. Then Shane Wright drops even further, so he doesn't get picked. But then you see the Arizona Coyotes select Logan Cooley. And I was like, if Logan Cooley was also going to fall into that opposition, if, say Arizona or Seattle didn't pick him, I would like to take a Logan Cooley as well. But, Arizona takes Logan Cooley. Also, I kind of feel bad for him because he's going to be playing in a college arena in Arizona, because that's where the Arizona Coyotes are going to be playing in the University of Arizona's new arena that they're building. So that's kind of funny. But I also feel bad for him. But then you get to the 4th overall pick, and you're kind of thinking, because it was also rumored that Seattle wanted the defenseman, but I think the defenseman that they wanted was Nemec, and that was who the Devils selected. So they opted to go in a different direction. They drafted Shane Wright. So you're thinking, man, he's not going to drop any further. You're basically you were watching the draft, and it was one of those other situations. Bob McKenzie from TSN, he was listing the draft picks before they actually happened. So you saw Seattle take Shane Wright. You're like, shit, he's not going to fall. But okay, let's see who the Flyers pick in their spot. You have the Jiricek defenseman kid. You also have Gauthier available. And basically, if they try to opt in a different direction, maybe they trade down. They don't. They select Cutter Gauthier. And I am perfectly fine with the pick. I like it a lot. I think it's perfectly great value. From where you were at, I would have been fine if they picked Jiricek. I would have been fine if they picked Gauthier. So I am perfectly fine with this pick. I like his ability. I like his size. I like he has the ability to put the puck in the net. He's a good scorer. He can use his body. He could basically do everything at once, Well, he has a lot of good, abilities in one. Physicality, skating, and the ability to put the puck in the net, which is a really good combination. Right now, like you said, like what Bill Meltzer said in his report, basically, the biggest question mark is because right now, I guess the Flyers see him as a center, and he started the place. He basically, like Bill Meltzer said, he's a hybrid of left wing and a center, but he's been playing left wing more in his entire life, basically. So he's going to be testing that out, I guess, in his time at Boston College, just to see how that works. So we're just going to have to wait and see what happens during that situation. So good pick. I like the pick overall for the Flyers. I think it's going to be a good one. Now we're just going to have to wait and see what he does in Boston College, because he said he's playing 1 year of college, then he's going to be turning pro. So I'm excited to see what happens with Gauthier in that aspect. So before we get into the other talkings about, Johnny Gaudreau and all that stuff. I want to talk about the Alex DeBrincat trade because that was pretty shocking when he got traded this afternoon. I definitely was not expecting that at all, looking at that entire thing. So if I go to the what is it, the TSN trade tracker, so I can get the basically the good amount of everything right here. So I go to the trade tracker right here. Okay, here we go. Let me mute that so I don't get any noise, copyright, anything like that. So we go to this afternoon. We saw, the trade with Ryan McDonough going to Nashville and all that stuff a couple of days ago. We saw Georgiev going to Colorado, returning some picks back to the Rangers. And then we get one of the bigger blockbuster moves earlier this afternoon. It was like a couple of hours before the draft. So Chicago, they send Alex DeBrincat over to the Ottawa Senators in return for I think it was the 7th overall pick, a second-round pick in 2022, and a third-round pick in 2024. And we were thinking, man, that's like a very low asking price at that point, or the return, actually, because there was a lot of reports that Chicago wanted a lot more for Alex DeBrincat. And there was also some reports about, the Flyers being one of the teams heavily involved in giving him an actual asking price. And then, as we're getting closer and closer to the draft, we saw the reports that the Flyers are dropping out on those trade talks because the Flyers did not want to involve the 5th overall pick. When I see this trade happen, I kind of, I wouldn't say get annoyed. I was kind of disappointed at that point because Alex DeBrincat, if we look at his entire career, right now, he's a multiple 40-goal scorer. He has scored 40 goals a couple of times in this league, and he has proven to do that. I know, like, a lot of people want to bring up, he's played with Patrick Kane for a lot of his career. Yeah, if you go to in 2018, 2019, he scored 41 goals that year, 76 points. And this past season, he scored 41 goals with 78 points for the Chicago Blackhawks. And basically looking at his previous years, his first season scored 28 goals, second season scored 41, third scored 18, but that was a shortened season. And then last year in the COVID shortened season, he scored 32 goals in 52 games and then 41 goals this year. Yeah, there's also question marks too about what DeBrincat could be a 40 goal scorer, but he has the ability to score 25 to 30 goals, and in a good season, he can top 40. Yeah, there's definitely question marks about who you're playing for on this team. How is he going to get those 40 goals? It's just I'm looking at, a 24-year-old player. He's very young, and he has the ability to score 40 goals. And it's another young player that you can build your franchise around because the Flyers next year, this upcoming season, I don't expect them to make the playoffs. I expect them to be a little better, but I don't expect them to be in, major contention to make the playoffs or anything like that. I do expect it to be another down year to try, like they're doing this aggressive retool. And then you look at the years upcoming after that to possibly when you could think about possibly being more competitive and making the playoffs and talking about your team like that. So it was kind of disappointing to see that, but at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world. I would have done that for DeBrincat. I think the Flyers possibly could have topped that offer for what Ottawa gave them. I would have traded the 5th overall pick for an Alex DeBrincat. I would have maybe traded, maybe a lower end, not a lower end prospect, maybe a mid-tier prospect. Maybe you look at your prospect system, maybe just hand something over to Chicago. Maybe you do look at a Bobby Brinker or something like that. I would have traded a Bobby Brink for an Alex DeBrincat if that meant getting him in return. I would have done that every day of the week. I do think the Flyers could have topped that trade offer, just in my honest opinion. But like I said, it's not the end all be all. I'm disappointed, but there's still a very long off season to go and a lot of more moves to make because the Flyers are definitely going to be making a lot of more moves this offseason. I'm definitely expecting some trades, with James Van Riemsdyk and everything like that. There's a lot of rumors circling around him and basically a bunch of other roster decisions that Chuck Fletcher is going to have to make. So we're going to have to wait and see on that aspect. So just to go into some other talk right here, just talking about the Flyers and their aspect about, all these Johnny Gaudreau rumors. I was kind of hoping something would happen today just to make, spice up the draft a little bit more because there were so many talks today about, just teams that are willing to make trades and everything like that. I kind of think to myself, that probably happens every year. And then eventually on draft day, it doesn't happen. So, so basically all of that point. So I know there's rumors around there. I know I saw Anthony Sanfilippo write about this and other people talking about this as well. I think Hockey Buzz was also talking about it at the same time that the Flyers could be pushing to try to trade for Johnny Gaudreau's rights. I wouldn't be against that at all. I would love to find any way to get Johnny Gaudreau into Philadelphia, because if you do trade for his rights, that does technically mean you own his rights, and you can give him that 8th year on the contract, because it does kind of sound like that, the talks between him and Calgary, they're kind of, not finding any, I guess, a way to meet in the middle, or it's, really just the question marks on Johnny Gaudreau's side, because I think Calgary is willing to meet any offer that he wants, especially if they have the 8th year available, since they do own his rights. I think right now it's the decision where Johnny wants to play. I'm sure he does love being in Calgary and everything like that, but I think there's it's been talked about basically his entire career. He does want to play in Philadelphia eventually. So is this the point where does Chuck Fletcher eventually try to trade for his rights, or does he Johnny test free agency and see what the offers he gets from there? You're basically going to have to wait and see, because there was a bunch of other reports talking about, maybe Calgary's willing to trade a Matthew Tkachuk or something like that, because, Matthew Tkachuk is also an restricted free agent, so he's going to be demanding a lot of money as well, coming off of a huge season. You also got Johnny coming off of a huge season, 115 plus points. So, and yeah, I'm definitely not expecting, if the Flyers were to bring a Johnny Gaudreau into the mix, which I'm expecting them to go very hard on, he's not going to replicate 115 points. That's just simply not possible with the way the roster is. Is he going to be a really good player for this team? Yes. I know there's a lot of people out there that are knocking Johnny Gaudreau, that they don't like the move if the Flyers were to make that. Johnny Gaudreau would make this team better. He would be a leader for the future. He's a hometown kid, basically everything like that. He's one of the better players in the National Hockey League. I would be ecstatic if the Flyers found a way to get Johnny Gaudreau, and I do think they're eventually going to find a way to get someone like a Johnny Gaudreau. I know there's other names out there, just Phil Forsberg out there, other possible free agents as well when you get closer into, everything like that. And speaking of free agents, seeing that contract that the Penguins gave Chris Letang, it's basically a good thing right there. Chris Letang stays with the Penguins the rest of his career, and it's a 6-year contract, though. He's staying until he's 41. So that's kind of, who knows? Seeing some comments right here. Brian saying the Flyers need a goaltender. I don't agree with you there, Brian. I don't agree. We have Carter Hart. If you're down on Carter Hart, you need to explain that to me. But Carter Hart's still 23 years old, and he's still, he's like the 76th issue with the Flyers team right now. I think Carter Hart is the least of our worries. Carter Hart's main struggles are coming from how badly the team is, built around him. The defense has been terrible and everything like that. Yeah, there's been some moments where Carter Hart hasn't played good. It's specifically going to the COVID-shortened season last year. But I thought Carter Hart played a lot better this year, and he is far from the worries, in my honest opinion. I know there's a lot of people out there that are saying, Carter Hart's no. Carter Hart is the least of the worries from the Philadelphia Flyers. Obi says he is hype about the pick. Does this mean we are out on the Johnny Gaudreau trade? I figured Calgary would have wanted the pick if they were going to move him. I know you referenced that in a couple of other chats, correcting your thing. If the Flyers were to trade for his rights with some of the reports that are out there, you probably wouldn't have had to give up the 5th overall pick for his rights, just because if you're looking at it at, whatever it is, you're trading for a guy that still isn't guaranteed to sign. You're trading for his rights, but he's still an unrestricted free agent coming up this year, whenever the date is. I got to look that date up, actually. When does NHL free agency start? Date. I need to see it. July 13th. So that is next Tuesday. Next Tuesday is the start of NHL free agency. So you trade for a guy, his rights, and you have this, time limit to try to do, sign him to that contract. They did the same thing with Kevin Hayes, definitely. They gave up a 5th round pick, I believe, for Kevin Hayes for his rights and something like that. The Flyers would have had them to give up way more to get Johnny Gaudreau, just because Johnny Gaudreau is a better player than Kevin Hayes. But I still don't think it would have required the 5th overall pick. Maybe it's something else, but the Flyers were very reluctant to get rid of that 5th overall pick. So do they still try to trade for Johnny's rights? I still think they're going to try to. We're just going to have to wait and see in the upcoming days. Maybe it happens tomorrow. You still got a lot of time before the NHL free agency starts. Like I said, it is next Tuesday. So there's a lot of things that you can go down from here. You still got a lot of things that you got to worry about with James Van Riemsdyk. There's rumors about him possibly being moved to maybe, I know Seattle's come up a bunch, Arizona, teams that are willing to take on his cap space that need to get to the cap floor. there's a lot of other things. Like, can Travis Konecny be traded? Are there any other moves that this Flyers team could make? They're going to be making a lot of moves this offseason, whether it's free agency, whether it's trades. They're going to be making moves. That's definitely a thing out there. I know the terrible news about the Ivan Fedotov situation, which is heartbreaking to see. So everything that's going on, just hopefully and pray that he is going to be okay in that situation in Russia. That's just a terrible thing to talk about at that point. But this team is going to make moves. Like, don't fret about that. And I do think they are going to go hard after Johnny Gaudreau. That's just my personal opinion. And just going with a lot of the sources that I have been seeing, it kind of feels like they are eventually going to go very hard to maybe trade for his rights, but you still got to wait and see what happens. So it's still a very long process at this point. I know a lot of Flyers fans on Twitter are very impatient, especially after the Alex DeBrincat news. But right now, find a way to be patient. Moves are going to happen. The offseason has barely started. It's barely started. Obi-Wan says he likes the pick. Brian says after this draft, we need some free agents. Oh, yeah, they're definitely going to be doing that. Obi-Wan says he doesn't know if DeBrincat is a 40-goal scorer on the Flyers. Yeah, that's definitely going to be the question mark if the Flyers were to trade for Alex DeBrincat. And there's still a lot of question marks surrounding Alex DeBrincat, too, because I think, I got to look at his contract, actually. If I look at Alex DeBrincat's contract, I know he is a restricted free agent next year, I believe. I got to look at that. Look at his contract through Cap Friendly. So he has one more year left on his contract. It's this year. And the cap hit is $6.4 million. I believe after that, he'll become an RFA, and the qualifying offer to qualify him is going to be $9 million. And then say if Ottawa were to give him that qualifying offer of $9 million, it's still not guaranteed that Alex DeBrincat will re-sign with Ottawa. It's not guaranteed. So he could test free agency after that. And it would be the same situation for the Flyers. If they do this and they give up, whatever it was to get an Alex DeBrincat, it's not guaranteed that he would stay in Philadelphia. I know there's things about making risks and all that stuff and everything like that, but the Flyers didn't want to risk moving the 5th overall pick and all that stuff. So right now, you got to stick with the process and see what this team does over the course of the offseason. Just because Alex DeBrincat got traded to another team doesn't mean your offseason is a complete failure. You got to see what the rest of the process is first. Obi-Wan says at first he was against the Johnny Hockey trade, but more he thinks about it, the more he is interested in seeing it happen. Yeah, we just got to wait and see what happens. Brian says we need the best goalie in the draft or best goalie. Okay. Obi-Wan said we literally have a franchise goalie for the first time in his life. He said Robert Esche was the last one. I don't even say Robert Esche was a franchise. He was just a decent goaltender in that point. Brian says just wants players to come in here and help this team win games and impact this team and help them win. Just want players to come in here. Yeah, I can definitely understand but there's, right now this is a process for this team. It's an aggressive retool. I don't expect them to be uber competitive next year. I still think they're going to be in, the tweener stage, possibly missing out on the playoffs. So right now they're trying to figure out this team, what they are, what they're trying to build with John Tortorella and everything like that. There's going to be a lot of other things that are going through this process. I do think they're going to be making a lot of moves this offseason. There's going to be a lot of different faces on this roster coming next season. So there's other things to talk about. Sean Gauthier is coming off of the surgery. He's going to be having a full training right there. Same thing with Kevin Hayes. I know the whole news with Joel Farabee having his shoulder surgery, which was, from his training regimen. He got hurt when he was training out there. So that's kind of a bummer there. And he's going to be missing, the first few months of the season, I believe. So that kind of stings. You still don't know anything about the Ryan Ellis situation, which is still kind of worrying me at that point, that we still don't know what's wrong with Ryan Ellis and everything like that. There's a lot of things. I can guarantee you that JVR is probably not going to be a Flyer next year. Could there be a chance that Travis Konecny gets traded? I think they're open to any possibility at this point with the way they're doing this aggressive retool. So we got to wait and see what happens. We definitely do. So it's definitely going to be an interesting time. In regards to the 5th overall pick in Cutter Gauthier, I really like the pick. Hopefully he can build what he's doing in Boston College and become a really good player for this Flyers team. Right now, he's one of those guys that's not going to make an impact on the team this year. So we're just going to have to wait and see what they do this offseason. Free agency starts next week. Are they going to be making any trades beforehand? There's a possible chance that can happen. You just got to take it day by day and wait and see what happens. So I'll definitely keep you guys updated when stuff like that happens. It's going to be an interesting time. Basically like what they did last year, with the whole Ryan Ellis trade and everything like that. Probably expect some moves like that and maybe some more. So I'll keep you guys updated on that. I appreciate everyone here that joins the live feed as always. If you are late to this and don't tune in this on time, definitely don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section down below. I'd like to see those as always. Don't forget to drop a like on the video. Don't forget to check out everything in the description below, the painted lines, BrodesMedia, everything like that. I recommend that. And also, I recommend hitting the subscribe button and also using the code TTPSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase at SEATGEEK, everyone. And I will see you next time.